Welcome to Akashic Resources, episode number 11. Today, we're going to talk about manifestation and how it's a science. Here at Akashic Resources, we are dedicated to helping you
to use your whole mind to be happier, healthier, and
more successful.
So a lot of people say manifestation, wow, isn't that person so lucky? Or wow, fate must be looking out for them. Or it's what's the other thing? It's look, it's magic, or it's magic, it's woo, woo, woo. It's like that.
Set your intention and
Yeah,
allow it to flow.
and that's part of it.
All
That's
of that
part of
is
it.
true.
However, it's really the best way to look at it is like a science. And as a science, you can learn it, you can study it, you can develop it, you can practice it. And the practicing is where there's a lot of fun. It's fun to practice this stuff. So we've got some major points. You came up with one the other day that we were working with some people, and
what I was saying, the number one point is to know yourself, is to be aware of yourself, is who you are, what you want, what's important to you, how do you create, how do you manifest, what are your tendencies. Just really knowing yourself helps you to become clear on the next step. So do we want to talk any more about knowing yourself?
Well, I'd say so. This is really interesting. So I'm a person that wakes up, and I know my daughter's like this, my son to a certain extent, but me and Daria very clearly, we know what we want, and it changes, and it's saying we want that, we want that, we want that, we want that. And sometimes people don't know what they want. And so when, for anybody, a big thing is to say, okay, this is my desire. Is it in alignment with what Goldhar's talking about? When you know yourself, you can instantly say, wow, that looks like a great job offer where I could make a lot of money. However, it's not in alignment with who I am and who I want to be, and overall what I want for my life.
Yeah, because it's easy to kind of go with the whatever's happening around you and go, well, I want to do that too, or not. There'd be so many options that you don't even know what you want and not clear about all of those things. So, and I think part of knowing yourself is also, if you know that I don't know what my desires are, wow, that's the step that I'm on. Okay, well, why do I think that is? And being able to do some writing and self-reflecting. I'm a really big proponent of the biggest key to manifesting yourself, your life, is the inner work, the inner work that you do within yourself, whether that's breathing or meditating or journaling or just taking some time to reflect, then you know more about yourself. And I know, for example, knowing yourself also could be something like this. Let's say you want to, let's just use the example of getting healthy and exercising and manifesting your ideal body, for example. And then you say something like this: I want to be able to work out every day for 6 months, and I'll wake up every day at 5 a.m. and I'll be at the gym at 6 a.m. Well, knowing yourself might be, well, I'm not really a morning person, so maybe that's not the right exact thing. And so just like understanding that is important to being able to create what you want.
Yep. And that clarity. So there's a lot of expressions, a lot of cliches that have, value because there's some truth in it. And one of the things that says, if you don't know where you're going, any step you take, it really doesn't matter, right? Because how could you say it's the wrong direction if you don't know what direction you're going in? So that's part of that clarity of desire, is when you start to clarify those desires, now subconscious mind, now the universe can start to say, hey, we've got a couple over here that match that description, and those people are wanting something, and it starts to move together with the use of the subconscious. And that's where you've got law of attraction. That's where you've got a lot of these things that, affirmations and that works really, really well when you have that clarity of your desire.
Yeah. So. And I think about it as tilling the substance of your mind. Or I think we've used this example, and I'm sure you've heard this example of your mind being kind of like a garden. And when you can become specific about what you want, is similar to clearing everything out and then planting a specific, let's say you want to grow carrots in your garden. And so you're saying, I want to grow carrots. So you're planting the seeds of carrot, and you're paying attention to even what you should do to care for specifically carrots.
Mhm.
Whether if you're like, I don't know what I want to grow, I just want my garden to grow and have stuff in it. And you might have things, but who knows if those are the things you want or don't want. And
Mhm.
you might not be able to really tend to the garden very well because you don't know what you're growing. So what
I've
would
seen
you,
some gardens like
you
that.
know,
I've seen,
you know,
hey, I
should
wonder
you-
what this is. I
should you
wonder if
water
it's
it a lot? Should you water it? Should it be under the sun? Should it have shade? You know, how often, what kind of food should you give it? All of those things are, when you're specific, you say, yes, this is the seed that I'm planting inside of myself. This is what I want. And included in we talk about it being a whole idea
Yeah.
or a whole seed thought. And
Mhm.
what that means is it's not just an idea, a whim. For example, I might one day wake up, and that's happened and probably happens to you. I really want to go to Paris, for example, you know, for a moment in time, it excites you. And then you think about it and you're like, well, why do I want to go to Paris? And what would be in comparison to the other desires that I have, how high is it? And like, what's the payoff? All these things. And so a whole seed idea would be something that you really know, you really understand. I want to go to Paris because of these very specific inner desires and outer desires. And I've wanted to do it my whole life. I've had past lives there. We have a friend, I think it's Paris or maybe it's England, that's really like, she's just drawn there. It's a soul desire to be there and she knows why.
Mhm.
So that's, I think,
Yeah,
creating that
yeah.
whole seed. And that's true for businesses too. If
Yeah, you know what? You're catching my thought there, because that's something that we do business readings. And when I studied business readings and businesses and that, one of the things that came up was the clarity of the seed idea for the business and how it determines the life of the business, the growth of the business, and all of that stuff. So, but for any desire, it's really, really important. The bigger that manifestation, like a company or a business, it's a very, very crucial step. And we do that. We go into that when people are working with their business readings. So
just to understand.
Yeah,
And I wanted
yeah.
to add a little bit, unless you want to go to the next section.
Well, you did mention a little bit of the next section, which the next section, she mentioned attention, and attention is so, so important.
Yeah, so let's talk about that and then we can circle back up to
Sure.
what came up for me is, so now it's this idea of, you know, what you know yourself, you've taken time to self-reflect, and through that self-reflection, you've identified something you desire. And now you've set the intention, you've clarified it, you've done all the things, and now what do you do? And this, I think, is a big one. It kind of piggybacks off the last podcast of consistency and resolve, like resolving too.
right.
So yes, it's true that there's the law of attraction, that there are miracles happening all the time, that manifestation is somewhat magical in the sense that it happens sometimes without you having to do much. All of a sudden something manifests. That's the whole point of something manifesting. It's just kind of, the idea sometimes feels like it's like coming out of thin air.
Yeah.
And
what magic means is that you don't understand the process. You see the result, but you don't understand the process. And we're saying, be a scientist so you understand the process. Then you can replicate that. You can do it over and over.
Yeah, and then the thing is that it's which is what we really dig into with the creative mind reading and in the classes. The creative mind is a combination of the conscious and subconscious mind working together in harmony with one another. And so if you think about, some people are heavier on one or the other, I might say, and this has happened to me, where I've said, I really want to, you know, go somewhere or do something. And then I think I have to do all these things to be able to do that, all these physical things. And then I get really heavy on the physical and it just seems really difficult to do it. And then I'm like, well, maybe I just can't. And, you know, just you can give up. Or the opposite might be, I want this, I have this desire. I'm just going to put the intention out there. And I put the intention out there and like a year passes and nothing happens. What the heck? I put the intention out there. I felt into it. I did all the things they told me to do. So why isn't it happening? And I think we have people listening right now that are on both ends and maybe have experienced one or the other. And really the magic happens, which is the science that you're talking about, is the relationship and the harmony between conscious and subconscious mind, where yes, it's awesome to have the experience of something just happening. It just comes into your life. It's so fulfilling when that happens. But if you really pay attention, you've been doing some things and you've been aligning your mind to prepare the groundwork or the substance of your mind,
Yeah.
so that it's a co-creation, so you can receive it, because it's you're co-creating. They like to say co-creating with the universe.
Right. Yeah.
So you want to say anything more about that?
Well, yeah, it's come up. We hear discussions and people ask us questions a lot, and some people are saying, well, I don't like to take too much action. I don't want to work too hard to get it, or I don't want to invest very much time, energy, or money, but I want the results. And there's a lot of stuff that covers this. Number one, you're not going to get much heat out of the fire until you put wood in. That's just the law. In the Bible, it says things like knock and the door should be answered. There's all those.
Ask and you shall receive.
Ask and you shall receive. And then there's a lot of stuff into that. God helps those who help themselves. And there's the parable with the talents. Remember, the one had 1, 5, and 10, and they invested those talents. God gave them those talents. In one version, it's money, and they had different amounts of money, which is value. And again, when the person invested that value, they got a higher return. And the one that didn't do anything and just buried it in the ground, whether that's talent or money, if you're not going to use that productively, you're probably not going to get much of a return. And that's what it says in the Bible. Edgar Cayce just had a quote. I get the quote of the day because I love Edgar Cayce. That's how I kind of wandered into this stuff. Talk about law of attraction. And the quote the other day said, it's in the doing that we can evaluate our progress. And a lot of people talk about stuff and they don't do anything. In fact, at the end of your life, people don't regret the things that they did that maybe they said, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. They regret the things they didn't do that they always wanted to do. So take action. In the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about, there's paths of inaction. You can be active in inaction. You can be inactive in action, but it is better to take the action again so that you've got something that you can evaluate. And that's how science works, is that you put forth an experiment and you set up the variables, and then you look at the result. And there's a universal law called cause and effect. And we can look at this is what I did to cause it. Here's the effect. Now I can make some adjustments to what I'm doing to see if I can get an effect that is more like my desire.
Yeah, and I like that. And it reminds me of the book we read, Dopamine Nation, and some of the work with Andrew Huberman, where he talks about the reward system of the brain, which is dopamine. And when, for example, there's an example of let's say someone that just is given everything to them in their life, and they don't really have to do much. It's just like maybe they're born rich or whatever the circumstances are. Their level of happiness and fulfillment is, when they've done studies, is actually lower than someone that is like ragged to riches or have had to really like work for everything they've gotten. And you were describing more of this metaphysical and the universal, but from the brain health perspective, it's the way the brain is for survival. It's how it's designed, so that if there's too much pleasure and there's not much effort for the pleasure, you actually experience more pain, and vice versa. When there's pain, difficulty, suffering, then you actually experience more pleasure. And not that work is suffering or anything, because it can be fulfilling, but there's effort that you have to put. And then you think about it on days, I know for me, on days that I'm just kind of laying around, which never happens anymore, but let's say on those days, I'm not actually as vitalized as the days that I'm even getting up and moving or leaving the house, or even like days that I work from home versus when I go to work. I actually feel more energized when I come home, even though I've put more effort in. It's just the way it works. So it's just that connection between the two. Of course, we want to find a balance. I think we're all looking for that. Nobody wants to work all day, every day, and just work so hard to get what they want. And sometimes that doesn't work. I had a reading that said I was beating my creations into existence. I wanted to just beat them in. And then the suggestion was to love my creations into existence. So it's just always, again, it's that balance.
And it's the balance of the conscious and subconscious mind. And the conscious mind really aggressive. So I had a reading similarly, because we have a lot in common. And it said that I didn't create the space to receive very well. I was so wrapped up in the image and the creating the seed idea and just kept messing with it and perfecting it, that I didn't fully let it go and release it so that I
Yeah.
could receive it. So it's kind of similar. And it's, again, it's knowing what's the
Knowing
function of the
yourself.
conscious mind. Yeah. Right. Knowing yourself, knowing the function. This is conscious mind. This is subconscious mind. What is the timing? And a lot of it is a timing kind of issue. Is it time to be aggressive? Is it time to be receptive? And then being in the flow, understanding the steps, and then learning the dance. And it's the dance, it's the practice that's a lot of fun, because sometimes we get these experiences, we're like, whoa, check it out. I just set this intention like 2 days ago and boom, here it is right now. And
Yeah.
that's fun. We could tell you stories about our lives, about our friends, about students, amazing stories.
I want to say something about the point back to knowing yourself and how it's really important is if you understand the way that you create, for example, knowing that I sometimes have a tendency of beating my creations into existence, or you might have a tendency of overthinking it, I guess is how it's described.
Sometimes.
Then you can go, oh, and maybe you've transformed that now because it's been years since you've had that. You can go, oh, that's my tendency. I'm creating in this way. And then I can make some changes in the way that I use my mind and create to have different results. And we're always going to do that, even if we're like, I consider myself, and I think you do too, great manifestors. But the cool thing about the law of karma is, and the way the universe works, you can't continue to manifest the ways you did in the past to make the next step, to go to the next level. You have to, it's just the way the universe works. It's like it's a little bit more challenging. You have to go a little bit further, or maybe your desires are like, we have a desire that's a bit bigger than we've ever done before. So we're having to go even like a step deeper into like, and I'm really having to go, what is it that I want? And how can I be more specific? And then going back to the intention part of that consistency is that you want to be evaluating yourself. Let's say if your desire is, I don't know, a new job, for example, you might want to evaluate what you're doing day to day. Are you developing the skills? Are you investing in getting to know new people? What are you doing about this desire? Because then that becomes a cooperating with subconscious mind. It's a co-creation. And then all of a sudden you might be, I've had an experience, I think I shared it here, but I'll say it again because I think it's so powerful, is about 5 years ago, we had, or no, I'm sorry, it was not 5 years ago. It was 2011, 2012. We had an event in Dallas at actually Wasp Gallery. It was a New Year's Eve event. And I had an intention. I thought this was going to be a big event. And it was. There was like 50, 60 people that came and went. My intention was at the end of that event that there would be 20 people signed up for class. Well, guess how many people signed up for class?
20.
Zero.
Zero.
Zero people signed up for class at the end of that. And I was just like, oh my God, I was just so upset because I really wanted that to happen. And then the next day I got on the phone and I made phone calls to all of the people that came through, all 50, or it might have been 100 people. No one else wanted to do it because it was like January 1st and I was crazy. And I was like, I want this, this is gonna happen. And guess how many people signed up for class? Zero. Again, zero. Big fat zero. And I was like, so upset. And, but we were on a lesson on the root chakra on creation, and it was all about who you're becoming and what you're learning is more important. And I was just thinking about that. And 2 or 3 weeks later, on January 17th, the next teacher that was starting a class, guess how many people he had in his
20.
class? He had 21 people in his class. None of them of whom came from that event.
Yeah.
Not one. So the lesson, do you know what the lesson is in that?
Give freely and don't be attached to how you receive it.
Yeah, so it's like you put forth the effort towards the things you want, but it may not come through those, for example, a new job, the LinkedIn contacts that you made. It might be you're at a dinner party and you sit next to the CEO of a company that you've always wanted to work at. You just never know. But when you do the work, you create the spaciousness. And you create the consciousness inside of yourself on a consistent basis to manifest.
Right. So yeah, creation, kind of another thing that she was referring to is creation is from inside out. So thinking about, we want to create relationships, we want to create prosperity and abundance, we want meaningful careers, maybe family, house, all those. And then thinking about how each of these opportunities is a vehicle for my growth. And when we do that, we're always in that alignment that Gobahar is talking about. All of our desires are in alignment with our higher self, and we are becoming a better person in the process. And that's what it's all about, because that's what you get to keep. So in the Bible, it talks about don't store your treasures on earth. So you don't get to keep the house, the Ferraris, all of that stuff.
Or the teapots.
Or the teapots. But you get to create, you get to keep the consciousness you build in the process of doing all those things. Of
Which is what matters.
The person, right? The person you become is what you get to take with you. So, and another thing kind of related to that, and my goodness, we could just talk forever about this stuff, but the idea that I'm waiting for this to happen, don't wait, invest in yourself. So if you understand law of attraction and vibration, so let's just make up a number. You're vibrating at 500 and you want a relationship that's the best relationship possible. Well, in the process of attracting that person to you, what if you could raise your vibration by 25 points by maybe doing some extra spiritual exercises, meditation, some different
doing something
things.
You love.
Right. Doing something that raised your vibration. So now you're attracting an even higher and better match to yourself. So there's never a reason to just wait. There's always a reason to invest in myself. And then now my manifestations are coming in at an even higher vibration.
And really enjoy the process, because not even for me, recently I've just been like, this is silly, because I'm always going to have a desire. I'm always going to have something I want to experience. And when I get that, I'm going to want something else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because we're designed to have desires. And even if you don't know what your desires are, you might have to do some digging, but you have them. And we all do. I truly believe we all have them. And I think that's a podcast in itself, how to unlock your desires. So if that's the case, and I'm always going to have desires, like you were saying, you're always going to have something on your to-do list, the same thing, then what's the point of those desires? For me to be happy and fulfilled and at peace? Oh, wow, maybe I could just be that in the process, enjoy the process. And typically, if I enjoy the process and my vibration is raised, I tend to have those desires much quickly. So it's silly. It's kind of like a game.
Right.
I think it's designed to get us to be happy and fulfilled and aligned. And, it's designed for that. And that's the goal, because our natural state is that, I believe.
Yeah. So if this is of interest to you, our next class is the Creative Mind and Manifestation class. Comes with the Creative Mind reading. And we go into the science, the step-by-step process of how to visualize, how to manifest, all of these things. And we give you lots of really, really good stuff that you can put into practice as you become a scientist and you start to practice on your desires and your manifestations. So we've got class starting Thursday, January 18th. We've got a special deal, only $300, and that gets your reading and a 5-week online class. So check it out. We'll be glad to have you join us, and we would love to hear your success stories down the road. So if you've got a success story about manifestation, send it in to us. We'll be glad to share it. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye.